Hello everyone, how's it going? In this video, we're going to talk about Lucid trading under the ticker symbol LCID. It has been one of the most speculated stocks in the Nasdaq. Some have said that it could be the next Tesla, while others believe that it's just going to be a giant bubble about to burst. Lucid is one of the few companies that has an actual product rolled out. And as time went on, the stock price action, along with investors' hope, went through a lot of roller coasters, and some are still wondering if this is a bandwagon that they want to hop on. In this video, we're going to look at Lucid and to see if the stock still deserves to have a place in our portfolio. If you appreciate my content, please consider to drop a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Also, please check out the links down in the description section, as every help is greatly appreciated. The last time we covered Lucid share price, the stock has been trying to recover from the retreat of not only the share price, but also a large decrease in people's interest in the stock altogether, following the rumors and the speculations. You know what, maybe they're not speculations, but the noises around the takeover. Once that started to fade away, the rest kind of faded away as well. Many people have then decided to liquidate part of their newly bought positions and to sell on the news, basically, and even at a loss. This shows how retail traders can sometimes be volatile and why we should stay away from that kind of approach, and why we should be careful with this kind of participants to begin with. Overall, the pressure to keep the price low and even keep lower, it still exists. Of course it does. And with the increasing probability for sell-off coming in like every single time that the interest rate increases, the war is still going on, the looming crisis like the recession, and the news about the tech layoffs. So every time we hear any of those keywords, it's not going to bode well for Lucid. With that being said, I would say that as long as the EV sector remains relevant, Lucid would have a relevance, because it would have this is one of the most robust companies in the sector, and you would want to have some Lucid shares to be part of your EV portfolio eventually. And for Lucid, I would say that all things considered, it's still in a relatively decent position. So if you compare it against Rivian, if you compare it against Mullen, if you compare it against Tesla or even NIO, I would say that we can still afford the luxury of looking at the crisis from afar and not the other way around. The price we must see in order to continue on with the buy orders is around $10. The market is constantly trying to get to that level, but the recent market tendencies might not be as clement as we would like. So overall, I would say that, really Lucid is a company that is currently going through some hardship, and we definitely need to give it time to recover. Can it recover back to $10? I believe so. But this no longer depends solely on Lucid itself. I feel like it'll depend a lot more on what we want to do with it. What's going to happen to Lucid is basically 2023 needs to be a year where they succeed at increasing their productivity. And once that can be done, then we must take a look at whether they can have a sustainable business model, and whether they can get their entire stack of cash needs from the operations. If they can, then Lucid will have a place in the future, like the long-term future. If not, then that's another story. But for the time being, I would say that we should fixate about this idea that, Lucid can get the $10 and above. And once this becomes the case, we can continue with the whole purchasing all over again. Lucid is an EV manufacturer that is poised to shake up the industry with the cutting-edge technology and designs. While other EV companies have been making strides in the industry, Lucid Motors stands out with its advanced battery technology, aerodynamic designs, and commitment for sustainable business model. So, in addition to the advanced technology and design, Lucid is also committed to sustainable business model by using the renewable energy sources to power the production facilities and wants to reduce its environmental impact throughout the life cycle of their vehicles. This commitment is what separates the company from other competitors, in my opinion. Another factor that makes Lucid Motors standing out is the focus on luxury segment. The company's first vehicle, Lucid Air, is a vehicle that is spacious and comfortable, coming with advanced drivers, assistance systems, and many other luxury features. When we look at the long-term tendencies of Lucid price action, it's not hard to see that the bubble that gave so much hope to traders around the world is now bursted. The market is no longer willing to blindly follow the latest hype, because on one hand, the market doesn't want to persist on believing that a beautifully made PowerPoint is better than a good financial report. On the other hand, it cannot afford to sustain the trend when supply chain issues, doubt over flagship companies within the sector, conflicts around the world, higher interest rates, and a looming recession have already been plaguing the real economy out there and also the narrative. The market has long predicted that there will be a bearish market after such a prolonged bull market, and that most stakeholders believe that it's going to be a rough patch for the next couple of years. The market peaked twice in the past, and if the first peak was caused by pure hype, the second one was triggered by the rollout of actual products. Lucid remains a company that has investment value in the years to come. The main question in everyone's mind is when should they enter in the stock? The long grind to lower price levels is likely caused by the market trends rather than the company fundamentals. So in that sense, things are not as alarming as they may seem. On the other hand, we should remember that sometimes, even if those grinds don't have an actual fundamental reasons, they may still last for a very long time and bring the price to very low levels. Hyliion and PaySafe are excellent examples in that case. Lucid had a strong financial performance in 2022. The company reported revenues of about $200 million in Q3 of 2022, a significant increase from just $232,000 of revenue in Q3 of 2021. This strong revenue growth was driven by the launch of Lucid Air, the company's first vehicle, which began deliveries in late 2021. The Lucid Air is a luxury electric vehicle that has been well received by consumers and that has helped establishing the company's reputation as a major player in the sector. Currently, they still have a negative net income, mostly caused by the fixed costs and other operating expenses that should be absorbed once the volume starts to pick up. Overall, Lucid's financial figures paint the picture of a company that is growing its operations but lacks a little bit in discipline and cost control, needing to scale up the operations to start having positive cash flows. Now, let's also cover the shareholder composition in Lucid, because this is a very important factor to determine if the company is better for trading or investing. Lucid is currently held by the institutional buyers for the most part, at more than 70% of the total float. This suggests that the price volatility of Lucid will be lower than other growth stocks, mostly owned by retails. The reason why this might be the case is because institutional shareholders have far more diversified portfolio and can afford to wait, so they don't mind the short-term volatilities. They also tend to stay in for a longer period of time, which is also a good sign for those of us who want to stay for the long run. Some key behavioral differences between institutional and retail shareholders include their investment horizon and also their level of involvement in the corporate governance. In other words, institutional shareholders tend to behave as if they own the company for real, that they are the ones deciding what is going to be the company's decisions, whereas the retailers tend to just behave as speculators. We come in and we aim to make more money than when we first entered in the stock, and this is the end of it. they don't see necessarily like the potentials of the money that there is to make 5 to 10 years from now. Whereas people managing other people's money can sometimes have this kind of opportunity to wait. The short interest of Lucid has been increasing in recent weeks, meaning an increasing number of investors are wondering whether it's a good time to sell the stock. Short sellers borrow the shares from brokers and then they dump it in the market, hoping to buy them back later at a lower price and making the profit from the difference. In the case of Lucid, there is a significant amount of short selling, but in my opinion, it's not sufficiently significant to say that there is a concerted short operation going on against Lucid. So I would say that this has to be put as a secondary reason at most. It's important to note that the short interest may not guarantee a short squeeze, but nevertheless, it's a metric worth monitoring. It's also worth mentioning that people shorting the stock often have a good reason doing so, and that a short squeeze may not happen regardless of how many stars are being aligned. My recommendation for Lucid is to start buying now, to slowly accumulate over the next 3 years if your profile fits the risk tolerance that is required to dabble in NASDAQ and also in the EV. But I would definitely wait for the shares to reach and stabilize around the $10 level before moving in with more capital. Right now, if you want to buy Lucid, you have to be prepared for potential sell-offs, and also the fact that we might see a recession through. So this is why over the next 2 years, it might be a good time to accumulate a lot of shares, but definitely don't start buying like 50%, 80% of your allocation now. This is not the best approach to go forward. So with all that being said, yes, I would recommend to start buying now and to slowly accumulate over time. Lucid, if it were to exist, is a company to exist for a long period of time, and it would be here to stay. So this is why I would recommend to have an investment approach overall rather than the trading the tops kind of approach.